What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the New York Giants have lost once again. They are now 1-4 on the season after getting blown out by the Miami Dolphins. Every time the Giants have lost this season, it's been a blowout. It's been disheartening. Injuries have piled up. The offensive line is the worst that I've ever seen, and it shows zero signs of improvement. To make matters worse, Daniel Jones went down with a neck injury. Still waiting to see how serious it is. He's got an MRI coming up, and we'll get the results on that and update you guys on that on Fireside Giants soon. But it's not looking good, Giants fans. This really does look like a team that could end up with a top 5 pick in the upcoming NFL draft. I mean, you look at this offense play, it is so inept. They can't score points. The points yesterday, they came from the defense. Shout out to Jason Pinnock, 102-yard pick six. That was an awesome play. I was at the stadium. I got rowdy on that play. I thought the Giants had signs of life there, especially when Bobby Okereke followed it up a few possessions later, gets a pick, puts the Giants offense in the red zone, but the Giants don't get 6 points out of the red zone trip. Unbelievable performance from the New York Giants offense, and I mean that in the worst way possible. I mean, it is just so difficult to watch. You guys watch it at home, you watch it in the stadium. Either way, it makes you nauseous. It's disgusting, and it's not fun to watch the New York Giants on the football field. So I don't really know what to say. I mean, we'll dive into it, give our recap, give our takeaways from this game, but I'll tell you, there's very few positive takeaways from this game. If I had to highlight some positives, I'll say Bobby Okereke, Jason Pinnock, they made some great plays, and a few defensive players did, Kayvon Thibodeau as well, but this offense, there isn't really a positive takeaway from this offense. Even the positive takeaways you want to have, Darren Waller finally got a lot of yards in a game, still had a couple crucial drops or breakups, and so just not a good game. New York Giants offense is terrible, and we'll go ahead and dive into it, but before we do all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the game down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on yesterday's game?
How am I doing? Guys, I'm tired. I really am exhausted. I really don't want to watch the Giants anymore. And, you know, as a diehard fan, as many of you guys are watching this episode and watching our channel on a daily basis, I think you can agree that we suck. We stink. We are a bad football team. In fact, we may be the worst football team in the league. Going from the excitement that we had a couple weeks ago, really, to now has been one of the most eye-opening situations that I think I've seen. And look, we've seen a lot of crap unfold for the Giants over the last couple of years, ranging from Jason Garrett's offense that we were predicting plays from, Ben McAdoo, the slant king. We were just a disaster, and we've been a disaster. We've been a joke in the NFL for a long time, and it seems like that's not coming to an end anytime soon. Daniel Jones, I'll say this. Is Daniel Jones the best quarterback in the world? Absolutely not. Is he a good quarterback? He can be, but no quarterback is surviving under this offensive line. I mean, guys, they've given up 100 pressures and 18 sacks. They're the worst ranked offensive line in pass protection in the NFL. The second to last is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we have a 13 sack differential compared to them. This is a situation where the Giants have invested a lot of capital into the offensive line. Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal, both first-round picks, and of course JMS is a second-round pick, and Ben Bredesen's a former third, fourth-round pick, and you spend draft capital. We've made signings. This hasn't been for a lack of trying. It certainly has been for a lack of consistency, a lack of durability, and I think a lot of coaching. Like, we've seen teams, and this is where I'm going to reference the Seattle Seahawks last week. Teams like the Seahawks, who were missing 2 starters, if not 3 last week, their offensive line held their own. Like, they stepped up and they didn't disintegrate into a puddle of dust. And ours seems to fall apart faster than a crumble cake. I don't really know how to explain the inept that we've watched over the first 5 weeks of the season, right? 5 weeks, 4 of those games have essentially been blowouts. The second week, the win over Arizona would have been a blowout if not for a second half miracle. We were down significantly, 21 to 0 or 3 at the half. We've scored no touchdowns offensively in the first half of games this season. In fact, our defense has been the only unit to score a touchdown in the first half of a game this season on this team. That is the most embarrassing thing I have ever seen. When your defense is the only unit that has scored a touchdown in the first half of a game over 5 weeks. That is 10 quarters of play, and the Giants haven't scored a touchdown. Look, based on that metric alone, Daniel Jones is overpaid. Based on that metric alone, our offensive line is garbage. On that metric alone, Brian Dable's not doing his job well enough. Mike Kafka's not doing his job well enough. Our receivers are not stepping up. I saw Isaiah Hodgins whiff on a block yesterday that Wan'Dale Robinson got blasted on. Blasted. He was taken to the freaking, I think he limped off the field, and a couple of drives later he had that concussion scare. He came back in the game. But look, our team is not playing like a team. We're playing like individuals, and the individuals stink. Like, you can't miss blocks. You have to at least get in the way. We've seen for the 5th consecutive week an unblocked rusher hit Daniel Jones within a millisecond of him snapping the football. Yesterday, once again, on Evan Neal's side, I don't know if it was his fault. I don't know the protection that Daniel Jones called, but there was an unblocked rusher, defensive end. It wasn't even a linebacker. It was a defensive end whose entire goal is to rush the passer, go unblocked. I don't know if Daniel Jones is supposed to point him out. I don't know if Evan Neal's supposed to get him. I don't know if Saquon, or rather Matt Breida or Gary Brightwell or Eric Gray is supposed to step in and get him. I don't know whose job that is, but Daniel Jones is probably the one that needs to point that out. And if he thought Evan Neal was supposed to block him, then it's Evan Neal's fault. It's a team disaster. And that's really where it comes down to. Yesterday, look, our defense showed up enough to keep us in that game. 3 turnovers, a touchdown. Yes, there was a couple of really big plays. Hill had a couple of big plays, and a Chain had a couple of big plays. And, you know, of course, they're going to do that. They do that every single week, but they still lost to the Buffalo Bills, right? Like, they still lost a game despite having all that explosiveness. So it's like, you know, they're not impossible to stop, but we just could not even stop them for the life of us. We were just feeding off of Tua, throwing awful interceptions. He bailed us out. He kept us in that game going into the second half. And our offense, we got a ball. We had a turnover, that forced fumble by McKinney that Kayvon Thibodeau jumped on. We ended up, you know, with that ball on the 45-yard line, our 45-yard line. We went 7 yards and punted. I mean, Anthony, when you were turning the ball back over to another team at that rate, it's unsustainable. This team is the worst in football. They are very close to, I think, imploding. I don't think this team can handle another few losses at this rate. And, you know, you heard McKinney. He said it's not the defense's fault, but it's a team issue. That's what he said. In translation, the offense freaking blows. So, you know, I'll ask you this, Anthony. How much longer do you think the locker room can hold out before this gets to a point where I think players start demanding trades, or, you know, just freaking out and you know, saying the wrong thing to the media? We're already starting to see it trickle into the media. We're seeing Saquon yelling back at fans. We're seeing, and for what it's worth, I think that was justified. Somebody was yelling at Daniel Jones after he got hurt. So, you know, kudos to Saquon for shouting out somebody and trying to protect his quarterback, even though he wasn't playing. You know, in McKinney's comments, like you're hearing guys, I mean, Evan Neal's comments, for God's sakes, that's the freaking that's the golden goose of what not to do. And then put up 6 pressures. How close do you think this locker room is to imploding, and us sitting here like picking apart comments that, you know, are just devastating to this team's morale?
I mean, it's pretty close to falling apart, I'd say. I think that the Xavier McKinney comments are kind of like the first domino to fall, and we'll see how many fall afterwards. But, you know, when you're asking me how many weeks until it really gets out of hand, I think you give it 2 more weeks, because the Giants have Buffalo next, and then that's week 6, and then you got week 7 going into week 8 is when you're going to be talking about the trade deadline. The trade deadline is October 31st, week 8, and that's when the New York Giants need to make decisions. So if anybody's going to try and get off of this team, they're going to do it right in that week 7 to week 8 period. They're going to make their complaints about the team known. They're going to get frustrated, outwardly frustrated, make their complaints public, and get themselves shipped out of New York. So I think, you know, it should hold over. I do believe in the Giants players in the locker room in terms of their character, their quality of character. I think they do have a lot of leaders, really good guys in that locker room. So I don't think anyone's going to purposely create a toxic working environment or shoot themselves in the foot or shoot the team in the foot. I don't think that's going to happen. Yes, frustration is bound to happen with a team playing this poorly. You saw that with the Evan Neal comments last week. But do I think anybody's going to force their way out? No. But once we get over to that trade deadline, the Giants are going to have some decisions to make. They're probably going to trade a player or two, and that might create a little bit of fallout and a little bit of disdain from players towards the front office or towards the coaching staff. Things can get ugly. We've seen them get ugly. How ugly will they get? Well, that's really on the coaching staff. It's very rare that you have a team just go down sinking to 3 total wins on a season and the coaching staff survives. This coaching staff is expected to survive. At least the head coach is expected to survive. I don't think that Brian Daboll could possibly get fired by the end of this season, but he does need to keep the locker room in order. If he doesn't, it's possible. Everybody's job gets on the line when players start turning on each other. When you have situations like Landon Collins and Eli Apple calling each other cancers to the locker room and going on podcasts to take shots at each other, that's the situation that the Giants need to make sure doesn't happen. But that's on the head coach. That's on the leaders in the locker room, the head coach, the captains. Make sure that those things don't happen. Again, it's a little bit scary that Xavier McKinney is kind of the first guy who had some comments taking shots towards other players. I mean, it was kind of subliminal shade that he sent to the offense. He is a captain, so there is some concern there. But we're also seeing guys like Josh Azidu sitting in the locker crying because he feels terrible about Daniel Jones getting hurt. You do have leaders in this locker room, good people in this locker room, and I'm not trying to say that Xavier McKinney isn't a leader and isn't a good player or a good person, because I do think really highly of Xavier McKinney as well, but everybody gets frustrated. Evan Neal got frustrated. Saquon Barkley commented on Evan Neal's comments. The locker room seems to be doing okay. They're taking this shit to heart, and they should be. They're playing really bad football. This is not where anybody wanted to be 5 weeks into the season. Can they turn it around? No, I don't think they can. In week 5, I think they're probably done. Their season is unfortunately over. It sucks to say as a Giants fan, but that's the cold reality that we have. Now, does our schedule start to ease up here in the next few weeks? Do they have 3 winnable games still coming up? Yes, if the offense plays better, but I'm not so confident that it will. But really, just when you're talking about this locker room, I think it stays intact for the most part. Once we get over to that trade deadline, things might get a little bit messy, but after that, the Giants will clean it up, get anybody out of there who is creating some disdain in the locker room, and hopefully start building toward the future. I think that the Giants need to be sellers at this trade deadline. Even if they pick up 3 wins before then, I still think they got to be sellers. You don't want to buy into the fool's gold. Seems like that might be what the New York Giants did this past season. We made the playoffs for the first time in a long time, won a playoff game for the first time in a long time. It was a spectacular season last year, but maybe it was a little bit of fool's gold that the Giants front office and players and fans all bought into, and in retrospect, maybe we should have been a little bit more cautious, and I think that's the tough lesson that the New York Giants are learning here, especially when focusing on the offensive line and the offense as a whole. So looking at this offensive line though, Alex, it's a disaster. It's a mess. I don't blame Josh Azidu for Daniel Jones getting hurt. Listen, Daniel Jones knows, he's said it before, he also does take a lot of unnecessary hits throughout the game that causes wear and tear on his body. That was kind of a freak incident. He got hit really hard in the back and got a little bit of whiplash. That's not too often that happens. Yes, Josh Azidu needs to be better. The whole offensive line does. But man, I just feel bad for Josh Azidu. I want to comment on the Josh Azidu situation because I really don't like what the Giants are doing to this poor kid. I think it's messed up. They drafted him in the 3rd round last year to be a long-term developmental piece as a starting guard. He wasn't supposed to play last year. He was supposed to develop as a backup. This year, he wasn't even supposed to play. He was supposed to develop as a backup behind Ben Bredesen and Mark Lewinsky, these veterans who are still under contract. Once those guys' contracts expire, then they want Azidu to be ready to go and thrust into the starting lineup. Instead, they just thrust him into the starting lineup at a new position in week 2. He's completely underdeveloped for the position he was originally supposed to play, and then they just thrust him into the starting lineup to fill the massive hole of Andrew Thomas's absence in week 2 of the season when he barely ever practiced at this position. This is messed up, and this is the kind of thing that, in my opinion, bad coaching, bad developing, this can ruin this kid's career. This sucks to me. Like, what we're seeing with Josh Azidu is the worst case scenario. He was supposed to take his time developing for years to become a starting guard, and he's trying to start at tackle. His confidence is clearly shaken. He's guilt-ridden and crying in the locker while reporters are talking to him. This is that career derailing shit that we talk about, messing up Giants players and creating draft busts. This situation in particular, the Josh Azidu one, this is a horrible mismanagement from the coaching staff, and it's really got me upset. I understand, guys. I know Matt Peart is terrible, but you didn't have to cut Tyree Phillips at the end of the preseason. He was at least serviceable. He knew the scheme. He knew the system. He was good enough. He started games last year for the Giants at tackle. Why didn't you just keep him and make him your backup tackle in case of an emergency? Why is this poor kid, Josh Azidu, an interior offensive lineman, starting at left tackle, letting his quarterback get beat beat up and ruining his confidence. It's so crucial for young offensive linemen at the start of their NFL careers to build that confidence and grow and develop. He's going to have no confidence by the end of the season if they keep up with this, keep him out at left tackle while Andrew Thomas recovers. It's just going to get uglier and uglier and continue to compound, and this kid's confidence is just going to be completely broken. I hope he's able to find the confidence, turn it around, become a good starting guard one day, but this is the kind of stuff that turns a promising player into wasted potential, and that's something that's really concerning to me. And then the other thing that I really do want to talk about, Alex, is the defense. I see a lot of Giants fans complaining, how do you give up another 30-point week? Why are the Dolphins running for 200 yards on us? Why do the Dolphins have 500 total yards of offense? Guys, it's the Miami freaking Dolphins. They have more yards through their first 5 games than the greatest show on turf had in their season. That illustrious season that Los Angeles Rams team had, or St. Louis Rams at the time, the Dolphins are better than that team. You're gonna give up points to this team. The Giants went into this game knowing that if they wanted to win, it had to be a shootout. You had to do 2 things. You had to force a few turnovers to make the difference, and you had to capitalize and score points. The Giants defense did their freaking job. Kudos to the Giants defense. Yeah, they let up a ton of yards. They let up a lot of points. It's the Miami Dolphins. You knew that was going to happen, but you made the 2 to 3 plays that you needed to make to change the course of the game by forcing 3 turnovers. That was the Giants defense's job. Wink Martindale and his unit did their job. The offense completely failed every one of those hardworking New York Giants defenders. I don't want to hear about Wink Martindale and how his job should be at risk and how bad the defense is. The defense has been keeping the Giants in every single one of these games this season. The only one that they really had a terrible game, I mean, you can say the Dallas one, but again, the Giants offense couldn't stay on the field. The bad game I would point to would be the first half versus the Arizona Cardinals. That's when they really got picked apart by Josh Dobbs. That was shocking. But since then, they've been keeping the Giants in every single one of these games, low-scoring affairs that become high-scoring affairs because the Giants offense doesn't produce points to respond. It's really frustrating. Watching this defense, they're playing their hearts out, they're balling, they're making turnovers, they're making splash plays now. They're really clicking against the best offense in the NFL, and the Giants offense completely fails them. It was miserable, and I would be so pissed if I was a New York Giants defender. If I'm a captain on this team, I'm Bobby Okereke, I'm Xavier McKinney. Maybe he shouldn't throw shade at the offense, but you know he's thinking it, and you know he's feeling it, and you know every single one of those players are. It's honestly unbelievable how bad this offense is, and I just don't see how anyone can place a majority blame or even a large portion of the blame on this defense that kept the New York Giants in it against one of the best offenses in the history of the NFL.
Well, that was certainly a a nice rant. I wanted to touch on the Josh Ezeudu situation because I don't blame him at all. As you said, he was put in a spot where there was no succeeding. Like, he was put in a spot where he was trying to fill the shoes of one of the best left tackles in the game, having never played left tackle in the NFL before. I feel terrible for him. Like you said, his confidence is shot. And look, there has to be something to the coaching at this point, man. Evan Neal was not this player. Like, if you go back and look at his time at Alabama and you look at his athleticism, you look at his speed, you look at his feet, you look at his processing, he looked like he was bound to be a tremendous, if he was on the Eagles, he'd be a tremendous right tackle right now. And I have full faith in that. You know, the Giants have ruined a number of guys. I think Thomas specifically got better on his own. I think Thomas went out and got a really good trainer and really good personal coach and did the work to be great, not because the Giants coached him up, because he did the work on the offseason to get better. I don't necessarily think that what we're seeing right now is a product of outside coaching. I think that we're seeing the Giants mess up a number of players, which is really bad. Like, our offensive line is really bad. You know, Mark Colombo, remember that whole thing, that whole scenario? I wish we had Mark Colombo right now. Seriously, like, this is one of the worst, if not the worst offensive line. Honestly, I didn't think it could get worse than this, guys. I didn't think it could get worse than what we saw last year, the year before that. Like, I didn't think you could get any worse. This is the worst offensive line I've ever seen. 18 sacks and 100 pressures in 5 games. It sounds like you're playing Madden, man. It sounds like a Madden stat line. Like, that's insane. I don't understand how someone keeps their job. It's like, you know, look, I'm never going to like root for someone to lose their job, but like, logically speaking, if for example, like, imagine you went into work tomorrow, everything that you did, all the work you did just fell apart the second someone tried to use it. Someone tried to go out, and then all the blame was put on somebody else. Like, imagine, like, someone else taking all the blame for your mistake every single day, and everybody knows it's you doing it, and still nothing happens. Like, that's what it feels like. And I'm sure Bobby Johnson's a good dude, and like, I don't wish any ill harm against him at all. But I feel like someone has to pay the price for this. Like, someone has to be the scapegoat in this situation, because I don't know what else you do from here. Like, I don't know where else you go. The Giants have talent, man. Like, Andrew Thomas is talented. Like, when he gets back, if he ever comes back at this rate, like, I don't know when he's going to come back. Apparently, Saquon's going to be further along than he is this week, so I don't think he'll be back until week maybe 7, maybe if we're lucky. This situation right now, we're probably not going to have Andrew Thomas for a while. Guys, Matt Peart played 19 snaps yesterday. 19 snaps. He gave up 4 pressures in 19 snaps. Why is he on this team? If Josh Ezeudu, they're willing to throw in a guy who's never played left tackle, let alone tackle in the NFL before, who needs a lot of development, why is Matt Peart on this team? He is an offensive tackle. He's a backup offensive tackle, and he got beaten out by a guy who's never played the position in his life at the NFL level. He did at college, but it's a different ball game, man. And he wasn't even a true and tried left tackle. He played a lot of left guard too. So like, why is Matt Peart on this team over Tyree Phillips? Why? You know what I mean? Why is La'el Collins not on their freaking wish list right now? Why are they now calling anybody that has any competence, any history of success, and asking them to come play for the Giants? Because right now, look, Justin Pugh, suit the hell up, man. He might be starting next week. Seriously, Mark Lewinsky, I can't bear to see him don a Giants uniform ever again. He gave up, 5 pressures and 2 sacks yesterday? Justin Pugh needs to be starting at left guard next week, and if he isn't, the Giants want to kill their quarterback. They want to kill Daniel Jones. They want to kill Tyrod. Whoever the hell is in there is going to die. Like, we can't protect anybody. Justin Pugh has to be starting at this point. I don't care if he knows half the playbook, because we don't even use our freaking playbook. We can't even use 90% of our playbook because we can't protect the quarterback. So this is my take. You tell Justin Pugh what the assignment is before the thing. He knows as much of the scheme as possible up to this point, and you run the plays you can, because Mark Lewinsky has barely ever played left guard in his career. He is a liability, and you need someone who has some success in the past, someone that could step in and offer some leadership to this unit. Right now, I'm just at a loss for words. Like, you can't solve it. Like you said, this season's already a wash, guys. Like, we're done. Usually we're out of it by like week 6, week 7, but there's maybe we could squeak in like a playoff run. We're so out of it, guys. Like, it's not even funny how out of the playoffs we are. We'd have to win out for the next couple weeks, and it's not happening. I think the Jets are going to beat us. The Commanders have sneaky good performances every now and then. I think they're going to beat us. I think that the Bills are going to walk over us. I don't know who we can beat here. Like, usually we beat up on the Commanders because we just show up for some reason against them. But they have a good pass rush. Deron Payne and Chase Young is having a great season. Sweat, I just don't know where you go from here. I don't know if we can compete with anybody. We're the worst team in football. And I don't know if if anyone starts to speak out, Anthony, if any player starts to come out and say, I don't like this, taking shots at other units, trade their ass, straight up, trade their ass. Xavier McKinney, if he comes out and has some more comments like that, trade him. If Adoree Jackson says something, which I don't think he will, because I think he's more of a humble guy, trade him. I just don't know, unless you're a young player or you are a cornerstone piece on this team, like, everyone should be up for grabs, just like the Broncos right now, or everyone's available except for these guys. Like, Andrew Thomas, off limits. Dexter Lawrence, off limits. Like, all of our rookies, off limits. Kayvon Thibodeau, I'd say, is off limits right now. I think he's been playing well the last couple of weeks. And everybody else is up for grabs. Obviously, you can't really move Bobby Okereke. He's a free agent signing. So, there's a couple guys that obviously don't fit that bill. Everybody else, you are now on an option for other teams, right? McKinney, option. Adoree, option. Leonard Williams, we'll pay your freaking salaries. Give us late round picks. I don't care. Isaiah Hodgins, Darren Waller. Like, we don't even use Waller. Might as well freaking trade him, see if we can get anything back. Like, at Saquon, I'd hate to trade Saquon, but he's hurt. Like, he's going to come back, and what happens? Like, where our offense is a little bit better, like, if at all, I just don't know. To be honest with you, Anthony, we're actually seeing the impact of Saquon's loss right now, and how much defenses have to pay attention to him, and how the play action opens up because they have to keep an eye on Saquon Barkley. Like, they have to game plan around him. He does help this offense a lot. But if he's not going to play, games every season, or he's injured at some points, it sucks, because then like your whole offense falls apart. Like, you need to build your offense around the passing game, around the blocking, and not around the running back position, which is what it feels like it has been in the past. We need to build through the trenches, and everything else falls into place because everyone gets better if the blocking is excellent up front. And that's the truth. So, yesterday, look, like, guys, Brock Purdy is not like a crazy good quarterback. He just has one of the best offensive lines in football, and he has miles of time. He has so much time back there to make the right reads, make the right throws, and make the right decisions. He doesn't have the best arm in the world. Like, he just has the scheme and the blocking up front to make him look a lot better than he really is. That's my personal take. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think it has to start with building through the trenches. The Giants need to invest every single thing they can this upcoming offseason in fixing the offensive line. As long as if they're not in line to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, and those two guys are off the board, and you're going top offensive tackle that you can get. Like, that's straight up what it has to be. Trades, free agents, I don't care. They got to rebuild the depth in this offensive line. It's some of the worst depth we've ever had, if at all. We don't even have anybody. So, right now, and we have to make a coaching change there, in my opinion, as well. So right now, there's just so many things that need to happen. A lot more investment needs to go into it, but it's necessary. Like, you need to rebuild this offensive line. I guarantee if the Giants bounce back next year with an average offensive line, this team is going to win more games and be competitive in games that they shouldn't be competitive in. You know what I mean? Just that's all it takes. Just having a good offensive line changes the course of your game. It makes your quarterback better. It makes your receivers better. It makes your running backs better. It makes your tight ends better. And the next thing, which helps your case, Anthony, it keeps your damn defense off the field. So that just helps everybody, man. A good offensive line helps everybody, and the Giants continuously can't build it. A decade into this process, guys. It's mind-blowing. It's like, I just don't know. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to solve it, but one thing I know for sure, they got to get it right. And they got to get it right soon, otherwise we're going to be sitting through this every single year for the next couple of years as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to go through this for years and years and years. I mean, we've been doing that. I'm ready for the years and years of pain to end. Will it? I don't know. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't feel like it. One thing that I do got to point out, though, Alex, when you look around the league, I mean, what are you asking your Giants offense to do? What did they need to do in yesterday's game? They needed to score 2 touchdowns to make that a one-possession game. The Dolphins had 31 points. If the Giants offense contributed 14 points to that game, it's 31-30. It's a close game. You get a 2-point conversion, you're tied. You get 2 2-point conversions, you win. That's all the Giants defense asked of its offense, 2 touchdowns, and they couldn't do that. I mean, even the week prior against the Seattle Seahawks, they lost that game 24-3, but take 7 points off from the pick 6 and give it to the Giants, it's now 10-17. And then also, if you take 7 points off of the board from fumbling within your own red zone and giving the Seahawks a gift-wrapped touchdown, you're talking 10-10. The Giants defense is not asking for a whole lot out of its offense, but the offense is giving it literally nothing. I mean, you're talking about giving your defense 2 to 3 touchdowns per game. 3 touchdowns per game, and that's all you need to win? That's not a lot of points, guys. The average amount of points scored in the NFL right now from a team, the median at least, is 22. 22 points per game is about average. So the Giants are at 12.4 points per game. And in yesterday's game, 7 of their points came from the defensive end, and then the rest of it came from special teams. I just think it's ridiculous, man. It's disheartening watching this offense go to work and perform this way. And one other thing that I want to mention that you already mentioned, Alex, I want to touch on the offensive line's coaching dilemma here, because, listen, there's something to be said about the fact that not a single player on this team has been coached how to pick up a stunt properly. It's almost like they don't even practice it. They just never see it coming. Anytime a defense is going up against this New York Giants offensive line, they're like, let's do a stunt, let's do a twist, let's confuse them. They won't see it coming, and they never do. And it's always an instant pressure. And yeah, a lot of the times it is on the right side of the line. A lot of the times it's on the left side of the line as well. This is a coaching problem. It's not just a talent problem. In my opinion, guys, I don't think the Giants have nearly as severe of a talent problem on the offensive line as most people suggest. I don't think all of these guys are this bad. I don't think that Evan Neal can possibly be this bad considering the amount of talent that he had coming out of college. I just think he's poorly coached and his development has taken a shot and he's regressed. But I do think it's because of coaching. I mean, this kid had all the talent coming out of college in the world. And you're talking about 3rd-round pick and Josh Azidu, 5th-round pick and Marcus McKethin. I mean, the Giants they're drafting, they're investing into their offensive line. Like, you can't say they haven't addressed it. They've spent a lot on the offensive line over the past 2 years. No, they didn't draft any this year. I mean, they signed a couple undrafted free agents. They took some chances. Maybe they should have gone out there, gotten a veteran in free agency. They did that last year. Mark Lewinsky was supposed to be a 3-year starter for them. He started 1 year, and now he's back in the starting lineup, but not because they want him to be. So I don't think that it is a lack of trying, like you said, Alex. I think the Giants have tried their best. They've invested into this offensive line, and the coaching staff has completely let down the front office in that regard because they are literally ruining talent on the football field. So when you mentioned the Justin Pugh and the fact that he might start, I hope that he does, because here's what I'm watching for Justin Pugh. I don't think he steps in there and plays like this all-pro, this huge upgrade and makes the offensive line just so much better. What I want to see with Justin Pugh is, can he pick up a stunt when he's in that lineup? Because if he can't pick up a stunt, he never sees the stunt coming. That tells you something. That tells you that it's not a lack of talent. It's a lack of communication and it's a lack of coaching. There's a deeper problem at play if he can't go in there and pick up stunt. Because you're talking about a guy who just spent his last 5 seasons with a completely different team on the other side of the freaking country. If he steps into this lineup and has the same mistakes, makes the same mistakes and the same errors as the rest of the guys in this lineup, it tells you it's not the players, but it's a larger problem. Communication, coaching, whatever it is. But if Justin Pugh steps in there and starts making the same mistakes, you can't just say Justin Pugh sucks. No, we know Justin Pugh is a good player. He's a veteran. He proved to be a good player, great pass protecting guard for years with the Arizona Cardinals. So if he has the same errors, makes the same mistakes as the rest of the guys, it tells you it's not on the individual players, but there is something larger at play. So what I need is for the New York Giants to push Justin Pugh into the starting lineup as soon as possible so we can get the answer to this massive question of what the F is wrong with the New York Giants offensive line. That will finally give us at least a little bit of clarity as to what is going wrong with this unit, is when we get a new face in there midway through the season. That's when we get some answers to that question. But there are so many questions that need answers right now for this New York Giants team. I mean, what is going on at quarterback now? That's a big question. Is Daniel Jones going to play next week? If not, all right, so Tommy DeVito gets called up from the practice squad. You assume Tyrod Taylor plays as the starter. Can Tyrod Taylor stay healthy for a full game behind that offensive line? I'm not so sure. Is Tyrod Taylor the best option? He might be. I mean, Daniel Jones had a good game on Sunday, but do you really want Daniel Jones to keep getting beat to shit every single week? Maybe you protect him. Maybe you say, okay, we're paying you too much money. We don't want to just injure you. So let's hold you out of the lineup until we figure out this offensive line. I think there's a lot of questions, like I said, and we'll see how the Giants approach this upcoming primetime game. Of course, it's on freaking primetime. I got to watch my team get embarrassed on the national spotlight again against the Buffalo Bills. That's going to suck. It always does. There's a lot of questions, like I said, and I'll be searching for answers. I'll do a live stream this week. I'll dive into film. I'll keep looking for answers to these questions, but we've been looking at answers for these questions for years, and we haven't found any yet, and neither has the New York Giants front office or coaching staff. So we're in for another long season, guys. It sucks, but of course, we'll keep searching for those answers for you right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.